Dan writes in, I have felt like this is fool's gold all year long and still do. Look, they haven't played their best. They haven't played their best. And it's not like they've played better opponents here. They aren't playing as well. And they still have won 2 of these 3 games that they haven't played their best. This feels, I cut it short of a crisis. I don't think it's a crisis, but I think it's a big challenge for Dan Campbell and this coaching staff to figure this out. Got to figure it out. Did I expect to get some people pulling the plug or never bought in kind of response today? Yeah, but weird thing is how many times we've said they're not going to go undefeated the rest of the way. And yet I feel like people seem surprised then when they lose. And yeah, when you lose, you look bad. When you lose, things go wrong. When you lose, many of the mistakes you make turn out to be, accumulation of them turn out to be fatal. And, you know, they were going to lose a game. Now, it sucks that it's a game they're favored in at home where everybody's got their eyes on them. And it feels like, it suddenly feels like, you know, it's, I don't want to say panic, but I think people are panicking. I think some people are panicking. Of course, if you say you never believed in them in the first place, then you're not panicking. You're seeing what you expected to see. Michigan, Ohio State, talking about keys to that game as well as we've got open lines and plenty of people want to talk. Gator out today. It's the Karsch and Anderson program. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Let's go to Mike in Commerce. You're next on 97.1. Hi, Mike.
Hi, how you doing?
Okay.
So my points are, you know, when I look at the stats, obviously the fumbles were a major situation there in the early defensive drawbacks, you know, on all those passes, what was doing. But, you know, that sneak play concerned me. I don't know if you touched on that. But
Which play? I'm sorry. Which play?
The sneak play on the punt.
Oh, the fake punt?
You know, yeah, the fake punt.
Okay.
That concerned me. I mean, they were on the 23-yard line, and they gave up a touchdown in that along those lines. And I know when they make it, I love it too, but it just seemed like kind of too risky at that point.
Well, we keep track of Campbell's gambles, and you can make a case that he went 0 for 5. Went for it on 4th down 5 separate times, including the fake punt, and went 0 for 5.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I guess we'll have to live with that. But as far as Goff goes, you know, I'm with him. I mean, he had a bad game, but, you know, when I look at the overall stats, you know, the stats showed time of possession and yardages, rushing, and all that. It seemed like we were doing pretty good. It's those turnovers that killed us.
I'm standing corrected, by the way. They went 1 for 5. They got that 4th and 1 later in the 2-minute drive. Yeah, they can't turn it over. Look, it's not rocket science, man. You don't need to be related to Vince Lombardi to figure that out. There have been way too many turnovers in recent weeks. And can they get back to not turning it over? Of course they can. Jared Goff went 382 passes or whatever it was between interceptions. Okay, so whatever vibe you had going there, whatever you were doing then, you know, you got to return to that. Now, the fumbles have been a product of pressure. I can't explain what went wrong yesterday, but this offensive line, which we've come to rely on being very good, gave up an unusually high number of QB pressures. And Goff, we know his limitations. We also know his skill set and how he makes it work. He's been great for this offense. But when you start breaking down some of the pedestals that he's, you know, leaning on, some of the pillars, I should say, he's leaning on, like great protection, like receivers getting open, things that help all quarterbacks, but our guy needs it more, right? Now, he's fit the ball in the tight windows. To be fair, he's made some really good throws to receivers that had been blanketed in coverage, but he hasn't had to because as much as maybe some other quarterbacks because he's given time and his receivers have a chance to get open. I mean, it was an accumulative effect of, you know, you got 3 starters out in the Green Bay secondary. How come guys weren't running wide open? You've got a great offensive line that's played banged up already this year, and they weren't protecting him. And the quarterback who hasn't turned it over. So, look, it was a bad performance. And maybe it's just what they needed. Maybe they got to go back to the drawing board. I haven't got the sense that they have been patting themselves on the back. I haven't got the sense that there are warning signs that this team feels like it's already accomplished something. But they know that better than anybody else. So, all right, back to the drawing board. They got a couple days off. Dan Campbell, again, I don't want to call this a crisis. I don't think it was a crisis. I don't think they're at a crisis point. But Dan Campbell, it's time to troubleshoot. Figure this thing out. It's a big part of being a head coach. It's not going to be a smooth ride all the time. They weren't going to go undefeated the rest of the way. He didn't want to lose any of these games. Didn't want to lose an NFC game. Didn't want to lose a division game. But they got to sort it out. And look, playoffs are still a high probability. Division championship's still a high probability. So they've got weeks to try and sort this thing out. And, I don't know that we should give up on this season just yet.